All right, so we're going to start in on the next unit, and this first portion of the unit should be really pretty straightforward because it's all review. We hit this a couple of months ago in class. So we did the flow of matter and how photosynthesis and respiration are related. So we're just going to kind of review that a little bit. So first of all, of course, plants undergo photosynthesis, and what they need is what respiration makes. So if you remember, photosynthesis needs carbon dioxide. Okay, so we have the carbon dioxide going in, and it needs water that you can see coming in through the roots, and what powers it is sunlight. So that's what it needs. Okay, and this is what respiration makes, except for the sunlight, of course, but it makes carbon dioxide. So in the side of the person, you can see carbon dioxide in every single cell is being made and then released, which is what we breathe out. And all animals, organisms, are going to that are not plants are going to also make water from respiration, plus ATP energy that you can see here. Okay, so respiration needs then food, in other words, glucose. That's why we eat. That's what this G is representing going into the cell, and it's being broken apart, digested, if you would. And it's going to need oxygen, which is what we breathe. From that, it's going to make ATP energy, which the organism can then use to move, grow, and all that stuff. But it releases carbon dioxide and water as a byproduct, which is, of course, exactly what the plant needs during photosynthesis. Okay, and so we took a look at this reaction earlier in the year, and this shows it too. So here's respiration at the top. Okay, and you can then see water is over here, and then over here on the photosynthesis side, they're exact opposites of each other. So this needs glucose and oxygen, that's respiration. This makes glucose and oxygen. So we see these things exact opposites. Again, this is all from the earlier unit that we did. Now, why that comes into play then is all about energy flows in ecosystems. That's really where we're kind of going, is ecosystems and ecology. Well, how does that come into play? So energy flows in a one-way direction. It starts off at the sun. That solar energy then is going to turn into chemical energy through photosynthesis. So that's solar energy, and now we have chemical energy right here. Okay. That chemical energy, in other words, also known as ATP energy, is going to move from one organism to another as it is eaten. So we have chemical energy here that's going to flow obviously to the deer as soon as the deer eats a portion of that plant. So now we have chemical energy, or ATP, moving to the deer. Again, it's one-way flow. This energy is not going to go back to the plant. The energy is not going to go back to the sun. It goes in the ecosystem because of the plants and photosynthesis, and due to respiration, in other words, eating, it's going to go from one organism to another as one organism eats another. That ATP energy is then used by the organism. So this is used by the organism as, ATP. That ATP energy is used as kinetic energy. So that would be, now the deer has energy to run. It has energy for its heartbeat. It has energy to grow and breathe. Its life processes, in other words. Solar energy is also converted into chemical energy here. That chemical energy is used as ATP energy too, so that the plant can take in water, can move materials around inside of itself, so it can grow its life processes. Now there's one more arrow right here that you can see. Some heat is going to be lost to the environment. And that's why, of course, all living things are going to feel slightly warm to the touch. Versus, of course, if something dies, it's not going to be able to stay warm during the winter, for example. Okay, so all organisms are going to have a temperature, just like we have a temperature of 98 degrees. So even the plant is going to have some heat loss to the environment because it's alive. Matter, on the other hand, is circular. So these items, the atoms in carbon dioxide, CO2, the atoms in water, hydrogen and oxygen, the atoms in glucose or food, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and the atoms in oxygen air that we breathe, O2, oxygen atoms again, are all being recycled over and over and over again. That's what some of these other arrows are going to be. Here's the glucose, which is this C6H12O6, those atoms are going to move from here to here as soon as the deer eats it. When the deer breathes in oxygen, and this makes oxygen from photosynthesis, the oxygen moves in a one-way direction so far, but it's going to go back around. But these O oxygen atoms move to the deer when the deer breathes it. The water, H2O, so remember from respiration it's going to make water. Well, the water, H2O, those atoms, which it got from the glucose and oxygen, is going to be released and up into the air, gather into clouds. That water, H2O then again, and then fall into the ground, back into the root system, and you can see how the hydrogen and oxygen is being recycled. Carbon dioxide is also breathed out, so where did the CO2 come from? Well, the CO2 came from the glucose and the oxygen. It's just being rearranged. Now it goes back to the plant. So this is just going around and around in a circle, all these atoms. That's why they're all made out of C's and O's and H's. That's all it is. The C's, O's, and H's are being rearranged and moved around from place to place to place between each one of the organisms. So matter flows in a circular pattern, recycled, while energy just goes one way. All right, that's it.